recording. That's a new thing with Zoom. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it tells you. I know, it's kind of interruptive a little bit. All right, so let me share my screen and I will get our PowerPoint up, hopefully. Let me see here. There we go. Let me get back.
Freeze swallow.
Yeah, freeze swallow. We know we're doing that. Okay, let me from the start. There we go. All right. So I just wanted to include that picture. I always try to include a picture, Janice, because I don't think you've been to all our do-it-yourself of something I've seen in the past month that might relate to what we were supposed to look for. And since great blue herons was one of our 5 target birds this past month, this was my shot of a great blue heron. Actually, just yesterday, it was standing on our neighbor's dock. And oh, that's cool. And kind of like Lisa was saying, it was very still, and it was looking for their sunfish that were around. And it stood here for it was a long time. It must have been about 40 minutes. And so we were watching it. And like you said, just how they just stand and they're so patient. And then every once in a while, it slowly arch its neck down. And then you look around, but it never did strike for fish. So I don't think the fish ever came close enough to the surface to get something. So, but it was kind of a cool shot. So I thought I'd share that. And here we are. So we're going to be talking about July, what to do, well, July and August. And Leslie and I chose Nonotuck Park in East Hampton. And of course, just like all our rest of our do-it-yourself field trips, I think all of you may have joined before, I'll go through the location first and how to get there and some maps, and then we'll get into our 5 target species. So if you don't know where Nonotuck Park is, it's the one big park in East Hampton. So here, you can see my cursor here down at the bottom is Route 141. So this will be coming up and over Mount Tom into downtown East Hampton. You do go all the way down. You bear that left on Cottage Street. So then you're really kind of in the midst of the heart of downtown. And like Mount Tom's ice cream is here. That's usually a landmark for, at least for me. and then you come to the stoplight, and that's kind of that big stoplight where Union Street goes off to the right. You've just come off Cottage Street, and then you take this left, and you follow that all the way around this sharp corner. And then right here, you can see the entrance to Nonotuck Park. And there is, right in front of these houses, you can park. So you don't have to go inside the park, which is kind of, there's an advantage, because if you park here, you can walk around the entrance, and along this walkway, you can look for birds. And you can see it's a loop, a roadway, and it loops around, and then there's this extension that goes down through the park. So you can stay walking on a paved road the whole time if you don't want to go into the woods. And so, it depends. Some people don't want to, get near where they get ticks or whatever. So it's kind of nice in that sense. And you can see you get some nice birding without even going onto a trail. So let me go to the next one. And here are the written directions. So we have made this available in the past also for do-it-yourself. So you might want to take a picture with your phone of the directions, and that way you have it. So if anyone wants to do that. And it's about a 2-mile loop around the park. I think the last time I went birding there, we didn't even do the whole 2-mile loop. There's some little spurs that you can do, but we had some excellent birding. So here's another view of the park. And here would be where you would park in front of people's private homes. There's a little parking on the street. And then here's the entrance. And you can see there is this spur of the lake that comes in. And that's where there's a lot of good birding. And so you can walk along this road, and then on your left, you will see there is a trail. I can't remember the name of that trail. I can't read what it says there, but it goes right along the edge of this little swampy area. And you can go as far as you want. It actually goes, it shows that it goes all the way around the park here. See this dotted dashed line?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it does get a little bit washed out and very close to the edge of the water. And so I have to say, what I usually do is I go down maybe about halfway, and then I turn around and I go back. And we have walked down there, and I've seen barred owls down there, wood ducks, mallards, herons. So it's just a nice wet area. And then as you go further up, you get to there's large pine trees and some open fields, as you can see here, and throughout the park. And there are other along, I can try to think exactly where it is, but along this side, again, is a little spur trail that you can take. And it goes down into a little wetland. There's a boardwalk. And again, you can look for birds there. This is just another view of the park. And I guess there's all these trails. I have never done any of these trails before. So I've only gone into the park itself. But I wanted to point out on this map that it's very close to the middle school and playing fields of the high school. So I do know that sometimes people will park at the schools, and it's a little bit of a walk, but you can walk over to Nonotuck Park from there. And I wanted to mention that because you want to keep in mind that in the summertime, this is the big recreation area for East Hampton residents. So in order to go in the park on the weekends, there is a charge. So you either want, if you go on a weekend, you can try and get parking again on the road and walk in, which would be fine. I don't think they charge for that, but you probably want to be early because, it's a recreation area where people will be swimming and maybe ball playing and all that sort of thing, that sort of stuff. So, or you go during the middle of the one Monday through Friday. Okay, so now we're going to do our target birds. And the first bird is chipping sparrow, because like I said, there's a lot of tall pine trees and open areas. And so it is a bird that is very common throughout the park. So chipping sparrows are small for sparrows. If you think of song sparrows, which is probably one of our most common sparrows, they're chunkier than a chipping sparrow. Chipping sparrow is a pretty small bird. Like think, I want to say like size of a goldfinch. I haven't compared their sizes, but it's a little sparrow. And if it's an adult, you want to look for this nice rusty cap and this clean black line on a clean gray face. And on their chest, they have no streaking at all, which is important in sparrows to look for the head pattern and the chest pattern to see if they have streaks or not. And what I'm going to do, maybe this will work. I'm not sure if this is going to work. Nope. Let me go back. Yeah, I had tried to embed some sounds for you all, but if we need those, we can go back later. Okay, so that's the adult. But what's tricky, since this is summer, is you will see a lot of young. And this is a young chipping sparrow. And you can see how that could be confusing because they don't really have the rusty cap yet. And they have streaks, fine streaking all over their chest. And they do have this little dark line through the eye. So I just bring this up because you want to be aware of young sparrows of any sort can be quite challenging. So you might see something and you'd be like, I have no idea what that is. And what it is, it's a young bird. So just keep that in mind. And what I usually do is if I have no idea is I look around because sparrows luckily are very social and there's often more sparrows around. I look to see if it's hanging out with other adults and that could help maybe think about, okay, that's probably a chipping sparrow, a young chipping sparrow. Almost said chicken sparrow. That's pretty funny. So that's our chipping sparrow. So that will be one of our birds. Next is cedar waxwing, which I've been hearing a lot of them lately. And again, they would be about mid-level in any of the trees anywhere through the park. Especially if you find trees, I'm trying to think if I've seen some fruiting trees. I'm sure they are there at Nonotuck Park. I just can't recall. And this is an adult, and they have this little crest on top of their head and a very dark mask, and kind of this very clean look about their whole coloration. And then they do have these little markings, if you look closely, on their wings that look shiny like wax. They're kind of yellowish underneath. It depends on how good the lighting is when you're looking. And this very soft, buffy color around their head. Sometimes you can see their crest, sometimes not. They sort of have a little bit of a thick bill, not really fat like a sparrow, and not really skinny like a warbler, kind of that in-between shape. And then right at the tip, you can see the tip here is this yellow. And again, it's shiny, like waxy. And cedar waxwings go again in flocks, usually a group, groups of 3 to 10 or whatever is usually when I see them. And you'll hear this very high pitch, see, 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 see. And I always remember cedar starts with C. So that's a way of remembering what they sound like. Because usually I hear them first. I'm like, oh, there's got to be cedar waxwings around. Then I start looking about mid-level or sometimes the top of a small tree. And then I'll see them up there and then they'll take off as a flock. Again, because it's summertime, we'll be seeing a lot of young ones. And notice that it's kind of modeled on the chest. So it doesn't have that clean look about it that the adults had. And you'll see a lot of these this time of year. And they're brownish. But look at the overall shape. And if you are lucky enough to see the end of the tail, the overall shape again is that waxwing shape, that is kind of in between, thickness of the bill, the little tuft that goes backwards, not really like a tuft like a cardinal. And it does have kind of this dark patch through its eye. Any questions so far on those two? Not yet. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to hand it over to Janice. And Janice, just let me know when you need me to click on things, and we'll go from there.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
So I have 3 birds that I'm going to talk to you about. And one of the common things about my 3, 2 common things. You can tell the difference between the male and females. And they all have some white that you're going to pay attention to. Unlike the birds that Laura talked about, the cedar waxwings, they look the same, male and female. And also the chipping sparrow. So that's just something to, now there are birds that we're going to be able to tell apart. So tree swallows are zoom, 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 just going faster and faster than you can usually put your binocs on. And what you see often is in this picture, you'll see this shiny blue, iridescent blue, black background. And you'll say, often I caught a glimpse of that, right? Because it's really zooming around. But the other part of this bird to notice is this pure white from the under the beak all the way down through the tail, under the tail. As I said to you, my birds all have white on them. So this is one of the ways that you're going to know that this is not a barn swallow. This is not a bank swallow. This is not a northern rough-winged swallow. It's not a cliff swallow. Is this coloration of the belly? It's the only swallow that is this clean all the way through. The other thing is often you'll find them at Nonotuck Park. They could easily be flying all over the water. You'll also see them in fields because they're picking up bugs. As they fly, you'll see very, very pointy wings. One of the interesting things about my other three birds also is they nest in cavities, preferably something that's already there. And so if you have a bird nest boxes up, they could easily be saying, that's for me. I'm going in there. This is a cavity nester. And I think that it's not easy to hear them because they have a really fine little sort of chirpy. And Laura, go for it and play the sounds. Let's see. Laura, if you turn your speaker up louder on yours for yourself. Hard to hear. Hard to hear. Okay. Okay, my apologies. And let's go to look at the juvenile. Again, what do you notice? Anybody have a comment on what you notice? Unmute your mic and go ahead, Lisa. You're still muted.
The pure white throat.
Yes. Again, this bird is going to start, you can't see very well in this picture, but it has that clean white neck, but it doesn't have that beautiful iridescent blue-black on the back yet. So that's, and again, this is all the birds are having their babies. And so you should see a bunch of these now also flying often with parents or in large groups. Questions on the tree swallow? Okay, moving on. Oh, that's right. Again, remember I said white on my birds? Often when you see something fly away, it looks like a large kind of, maybe you say woodpecker, but this is a big bird, bigger than a robin, and you'll see the white patch. It's not a harrier, if you've had a harrier so far, but this is one really identifying marks if you see the bird going away from you. The other thing, a couple other things is this bird has it has a call and it has a song, and I don't know if you can go to the next slide, Laura, please. Can you play that one? Is it any better? You have to stay pressing that little button on the left. I can't hear anything.
I can't hear it.
Anybody hear anything?
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice idea. Okay, obviously work to do. So here are pictures. As I said to you, the flickers, you can see the difference between the male and female. Anybody want to look close at these pictures and say what's something you see differently? I'm going to tell you it's in this part.
Mustache.
The mustache. Thank you, Sue. So it has, Laura, you want to use your, yes. And fitting for a male to have the mustache. So sometimes if you just get a quick glance at the bird and you didn't see the white behind it, but you saw just the face, this is a good way to say, it had black right there by its beak. Even if you say, I don't know exactly where that is. The other thing special about the flicker is there's an East Coast and West Coast flickers. And our flicker here is the yellow shafted. Anybody want to tell me what that means? What they think that means?
It's yellow under the wings.
That's right. So you don't often see that. Okay, it's not like, oh yeah, of course it's a yellow shafted. It has to be flying and then you'll see underneath, you can see it. But other things that are particular about this bird are this big black bib, very, very dark bib on both male and female. And then on the belly, it's sort of like circular spots, big spots, like a thrush. But I mean, they're really big and they're very, very dark. And they're, as you can see, they go quite far down. And you can see them here on the female also. The other thing is talked to you about, like mine, these are all cavity nesters. So they're going to look for a previous nest or a new hole in a tree, because that's where they like to have their babies. Often they'll look for a dead tree or a diseased tree because it's easier to clear out for making their nest. The interesting thing about these things is somebody said to me, like, I saw this thing on the ground. These guys love bugs. They are on the ground, pecking away in the ground. Not really do you see them in the trees. You know, you say like bugs, but they're bugs in the tree. Now, these guys love to be on the ground. And so you will, sometimes in the spring as they're migrating through, you'll see them in a flat field. They're all on the ground. This bird's song sometimes can be confused with a pileated, which we're going to look at now. So you want to look at listening to the sounds, both the call and the song. And I get confused now. I mean, a bunch of us sometimes it's like you aren't sure, but they have calls that are very, very similar. And people say, well, what about the drumming? Can't you tell if it's drumming, if it's a hairy or a downy or a flicker or pileated? No, not really, because it depends on what they're drumming on. Is it a new tree? Is it an old tree? Is it hollow? So that's not easy to identify a flicker from that. And people say, well, why are they just trying to, do they think that they forgot that they're eating bugs on the ground? And no, often they're drumming to communicate to other flickers. So that's a little bit about the yellow-shafted flicker. And my last bird is like a chicken hanging off a tree. I mean, this is what I'm saying. This is the size of this bird. It is a big guy, like the size of a crow. And it too has white, very much black and white on the heads, both the male and female. And this is the original Woody Woodpecker. This is the guy they made Woody the Woodpecker after. So you should be able to remember him. This is a bird that, yeah, they like trees, but they're not necessarily only in forests. They're often in urban, suburban areas where there are big trees or trees that are dying. So don't feel like I have to be in the woods to find this bird. That's why we're suggesting Nantucket Park, because they are there. Again, we'll talk a little bit about the drumming. So like, why do they really drum? One is, I'm here, I'm looking for a good lady. I'm looking to find my nest, or I'm looking for food. So remember, when you hear the drumming, is like, is there a special message? Well, think about what time of year it is and what might they be doing. That would be why. The drumming is a different drumming for this bird is, and it's not always easy to identify, just that it's a deep drumming that gets faster but quieter toward the end. So listen, try and listen if you hear some drumming and like, is this true? Is this happening? And maybe you'll be able to begin to identify the pileated to the drumming. The other is, as I said, they really like, they should be happy here. Carpenter ants, their number one food that they love. So, but that doesn't mean that they won't eat other beetles or insects, and they're constantly foraging. The interesting thing about them is they make their excavations when they're making their holes, like downies. downies are like perfectly round. You think they must have a compass, right? And able to do that. These are more oblong. And so if you go around and you look at trees that you see and they have some holes, look at the shape. And then you'll start getting an idea. There's probably a pileated in the neighborhood because it looks like it's coming here. One last thing, the beak, looks like this is a mean beak. The beak is as long as the head. Okay, those are my tidbits on the pileated, the yellow shafted flicker, and the tree swallow. Any questions? Try the pileated. Let's just see. I can't believe that none of them work.
Okay, yeah, let me, I have to hide
Well,
the.
the male has this redness by its beak too.
Yes,
This,
Did anyone hear that?
I do a little, but.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Oopsie.
Okay, so go back. Sue pointed out something that I forgot to do. Is like, how can I tell a male and a female? You can see it in these two pictures. What color is the mustache on the male?
Red.
Red. And the female doesn't have that. But, you know, you got to have fast eyes and be looking in the right frame of the head to be able to notice that. But that is one way to, that is the only way to be able to tell them apart.
Right, so, all right. Does anyone have any questions before I take down the PowerPoint?
Well, this says August 2nd, but you said we're not meeting until September, correct?
I think we're gonna wait till September.
Okay.
So we will be in touch with folks. Yeah, I know, this was, yeah, I'm glad you noticed that. I had corrected it on an old PowerPoint, a draft of our PowerPoint, but didn't get it up to date on this one.
Okay.
So everyone ignore that date. And it will probably, we'll try to aim, we usually try to aim for the first Monday of the month, but I think September, it does have Labor Day weekend in there.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see, and we will be in touch about that. And again, it will be in the newsletter and on the website. So, and we usually try to send out an email blast to members to let them know of an upcoming do-it-yourself, because it happens early in the month and often our newsletter gets out after it's happened. So just look for that. Yeah, and let me stop sharing my screen so I can see all of you. There we go.
So I have a question, two questions. One is, you all talk a lot about the honeypot, and I thought I knew where it was, and I think it's an area I know, but I've never called it that. So is it where Cemetery Road is in Hadley, and you go keep going past where you would turn left to get on Route 9? Where is that? Is that the honeypot?
you go up over the dike.
Jim, you're muted.
You're muted. Jim.
Yeah, instead of, where you go over the dike on Cemetery Road?
Yeah.
And then
Just-
take a left and head to Route 9,
Yeah, but go straight.
go straight ahead, that's the honeypot.
Oh, okay, then I was right. Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah,
make
it's
sure I was
those
right.
dirt roads, you can drive around on some of those dirt roads.
Right, okay. And the other question I have is that I feel like for years I've been learning sounds, so I know a fair amount of them. I have the darndest time sighting birds. I really do. I felt like I was hearing so many things at Station Road, and maybe it's just that I'm not so handy with my binoculars yet. I just wondered if you had any tips for getting those binoculars on the bird.
One of the things that I did when I was first learning was I would go in my backyard around my feeders and I'd follow birds up into the tree when they grabbed a seed, like a chickadee or a titmouse or a nuthatch will grab it,
Practice.
then it'll go up into the tree. And so
Right.
I'll follow with my binoculars. Or if a finch comes into the tree before it comes to the feeder, I'll try and find it in the tree. So just practicing in the backyard is what I learned, is how I learned to use my binoculars.
I mean, I've been using them for so long, but this has always been something that I find difficult, and it sounds so silly to ask it, but I thought I
No.
might as well ask you.
It's really not. It's really, it takes a lot of practice, I think,
Yeah,
doing it
it
over and
does.
over and over. It also, to make sure that your binoculars are focused properly for your eyes.
Yes, I know about
Yeah,
that.
you can go online to see the steps that you go through for
Yeah.
that is important.
Yeah,
And to realize that people have all different levels of binoculars or quality of binoculars.
right.
And so you can be out with other folks and they could, sometimes they'll be describing let's say a white eye ring and you're not seeing it all at all. And that has to do with different binocular types,
Yeah,
quality. So, that it's a whole bunch of variables, in other words.
yeah,
But I have to say, I did exactly what Jim said with, I had a bird feeder in my backyard and I would sit outside and watch birds in my backyard or my neighborhood, whatever's
Sure.
convenient for you.
Yeah.
And that way, if I missed it, if it was a robin and I couldn't find it, that's okay. Or
right, exactly.
not some rare bird, right? Or
I
a
know.
cardinal or something. And then just by that,
Good idea, really good idea, yeah.
and
helpful.
another thing too is what I'm finding is that going to a spot and just sitting instead
Right,
of walking and birding, that can help.
yeah,
And Nonotuck Park, you could bring a folding chair or something and choose a spot and sit
Yeah.
and just watch the birds around
Right.
you. And that might help as well.
yeah, because sometimes, you're kind of on the move, and if you're with a friend, forget it. I mean, I feel
Yeah,
like
right. Yeah.
you should go
Unless
with
they're
a
birding.
birder or by
They're
just
they're
alone.
distracting. Those friends are distracting.
They're really distracting.
But we're gonna, what we're gonna do this fall is, we're starting to develop field trips, and they're gonna be like, local field trips for a couple hours to other field trips that'll be local, that'll be for 4 hours, and some that'll be a little bit of a distance, but they might be 4 or 5 hours. And so we're gonna have a variety, so you can feel comfortable like coming to a walk at Fort Hill or Arcadia,
Mhm.
Fort River or Arcadia, something like that. And you really, to me, the more I go out and the more I go out with people that know what they're doing, the more I learn.
Yeah, that's true.
Olivia, a couple other things that I find. I am not a good forest birder. If there's a lot of trees and leaves, oh my God,
Yeah,
that's not. I don't find them,
And
And-
that's what I'm talking about.
and
Yeah,
I need like more open spaces,
Yeah.
right? So that I know about me. The other is if I'm with other birders, some people are better than others about saying where the bird is.
Yeah.
So I can't get on it because I don't have a clue what they're really trying to tell me. They're like over there, right? Higher up from
Down to
where?
the left.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. And so
yeah, I get that's great.
that's I tell people, could you please use a clock, right? Tell me, like, it says at 9:30, 10, 11, 2, that gives me some. And
Yeah.
which of these 4 trees, right? They say to those trees, right? Or in the bush, the high bush, the low bush, and I'm not very good at knowing names of bushes and stuff. So sometimes people will say, well, it's in, the mulberry. And I'm like, I don't really know what a mulberry is.
I should go with you, I think, or maybe not, because we have the same problems.
But it is helping people be better at telling you where they are.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I don't feel so alone.
And the one thing on honeypot that I wanted to say, that area is all honeypot. When Lisa talked about seeing the
Blue.
blue grosbeak, which is in the honeypot, people get there in a variety of ways. That happens to be a bird that is seen off the dike.
Okay.
Okay.
So walk on the dike. You mean?
Well, you can do that, but you can also go to the Alexandra Dawson, park there and walk next to the river. And then you walk out on the dike. That's a lovely walk.
Right. I know that walk. Yeah.
And you'll get to the same place and you'll get to the honeypot, but you won't be driving around.
I see. Yeah. Walk down along the river, take a left on the dike. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I know that area. Yeah.
Alexandra, excuse me, Olivia?
Yeah.
Could I ask you, you said you were good at listening, and I've been hoping that if I learned birdsong better, I would not have to depend on my lousy eyes as much.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what bird you're looking for? Can you tell from what you hear that?
Sometimes,
Okay.
sometimes. Yeah, I
Just-
mean, I'm not an expert by any means,
Yeah.
but I know, quite a few sounds. I live in an area that's got a lot of bird life, and I also started bird watching years ago when I used to go to Cape Breton, and that's when I learned a few warblers that first summer. And so yeah, I know, like I hear the yellowthroat a lot right near my house, and I cannot spot it. So I don't know. But I listen to some CDs of bird sounds, and I always look on my phone and play the birds. Well, you probably do that too.
Yeah, but at least you know what it is you're looking for.
Kind of. Yeah, but I don't know if it's male or, and that's another question. Do females sing? Some species and females sing and some don't.
Hmm.
No, what do you all, anybody ever thought about that?
It's a loaded question, Olivia.
Oh, it is? Oh,
We're
okay.
actually, there's actually a group of scientists that are studying that. And we're gonna have one of those people speak to the club through the education committee. We're gonna do a program this fall
Great.
and have one of those people talk to us about which female birds sing.
Right.
So we're hoping to do that because it's a really popular topic right now with bird watchers.
Yeah. Okay.
Some female birds do sing.
More than we think.
Yeah.
Yes,
More than we think.
more than we think.
And their coloration usually is more muted. So,
Right.
and it sort of fades, is more faded, I think, in our minds.
Yeah. So anyway, well, great. Thank you all.
One other note, different note, sorry. I don't know how unusual it is. I have a pair of yellow-bellied sapsuckers,
Oh.
my crabapple, like every morning, making mincemeat of the crab apple. They've got a grid on each limb. It's feel like 100 holes on each limb, around the limb. But anyways, it's nice to, I usually can't recall seeing them before, or, around. And I have woods behind me, so they fly back and forth from the woods to their morning brunch at my crab apple. Anyways, I thought it was cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if your crabapple reached a certain age.
It's old, yeah.
That attracted the sapsuckers this year, right? Yeah, or something happened inside the tree. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Love sapsuckers.
I hope the tree comes back next. The tree looks healthy, but apparently there's got a lot of bugs somewhere.
Or the sap leaking out. Yeah, I don't know.
I thought they were sort of deeper forest birds, that they're coming to a yard and a crabapple tree is fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's not deep forest, but I live on the border of like where Hampshire College Farm. There's there's a forested area between the farm and the
Right.
neighborhood.
So you got big woods behind you then, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, anyone else? Any last comments before we're sent off to our Donatuck Park field trip?
Oh, I want to thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank
thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Good to see you. And happy birding. Have a wonderful summer. Stay cool.
You
We're
too.
supposed to have hot weather. What again?
Yes.
Alyssa, I wanted to let you know, we have someone going to speak on shorebirds on July 21st. And because there's not a newsletter, I'm going to send you that information. If you could send that out to the members.
You're talking to me. I thought you were talking to
Yeah.
Elise.
Oh,
Sorry.
Lissa, yeah.
I'll
And
listen
then
more
Patty's gonna do Nighthawks in August, and that might be before the newsletter comes out. So that's another one that we'll send out in August to the membership.
Okay.
But we're only doing one a month in the summertime.
All right, I'll email you, Jim. I just want to be sure it's at a time
Yeah.
like that I'm not going away, or not that I even know if I'm going away, but we'll coordinate a time.
Sure.
Good.
Yeah, we can communicate by email, but I just wanted to let you know those two things were coming up.
Sure.
All right,
Short is July 21st. And then
Nighthawks.
Nighthawks will be mid-August sometime.
Okay.
So.
Great. All right, thank you all. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.